He was convicted of running a huge criminal enterprise stretching from Atlanta to Detroit and several other states. The story of Big Meech, who headed up the Black Mafia family, is also the source of a popular TV show that has been filmed right here in Atlanta. And this week, after serving nearly 20 years in prison for racketeering, drug dealing, and running a criminal enterprise, he is out of prison.
Lined up against the wall, guns in your face, a $3 million bill is due and your partner is in the wind. Oh, and your partner is your brother. Now, is this why Big Meech and Southwest T fell out? Now, Blue DaVinci recently was telling a story along these lines, and I might have heard a rumor about this some time ago, perhaps.
He got this complex, like, he feel like, I don't know if he's trying to be the older brother, something he could never be, but what?
We pick up our story in the mid to late 90s. The exact place, I think, was Gardena, California, a solid suburb next to Compton, where Big Meech had his first California HQ. This is where Bull and Blue met Big Meech by selling them high-grade Cali Chronic. One day, the Mexicans arrive unexpectedly at the track. And not the nice Mexicans, not the ones who drop off the bag. These are the ones who barely speak Spanish, much less English. They just want the paper. They tell Meech that his brother Terry is gone, and so is the work they jointly took on consignment. But the ticket is still due and owing in full. But T and his crew are gone. The Mexicans can't find him, and now they're holding Meech's side responsible. Blue DaVinci in a recent interview referenced the Mexican mafia putting guns to their head, but I'm sure he meant the guys from south of the border, if you catch my drift. Now, the Flannery brothers were still a team at this point, but with Terry, and remember this is one side of the story, of course, gone, the $3 million, according to Blue DaVinci, had to be paid, or bodies were going to start dropping right then and there. Once again, Demetrius Big Meech Flannery used his most valuable trait, his verbal skills. He was able to save everybody by convincing the bill collectors to put the guns down, and he would work the tab off. And slowly but surely he did. So, if you owe X dollars per brick, you just turn in a couple extra thousand for each brick, and after you sell a 300, 400, 500 of them, you pay off $1 million tab. So to pay off a $3 million tab, maybe they had to sell 1,000 or 1,500 extra bricks they didn't make any money off of, but they could have did that in a month or two. There's another situation that Big Meech had to be upset about with his brother.
He would take 100 bricks and make an extra 20 bricks out of it. He got to break everything down, repress it, put it back together. I never done that. He done went and bought the work with my money and his money, and then he repressing my brick.
Terry was copping for both of them when Meech was down south, and Terry was taking the bricks and taking 200 grams out of each one before he passed them on. So we buy 500 bricks. Meech got 250 coming. He's gonna take 250 times 200. So if Meech has 250 bricks coming, Terry's gonna cut out 50 free bricks for himself. According to the federal indictment, Southwest T was possibly talking about putting a hit out on Big Meech for making all of them hot with his BMF billboards and his antics in Atlanta, but it was T who's all over the wiretaps.
They're the leaders of the Black Mafia family, and they're from Southwest Detroit. Right now, Demetrius Flannery is in federal lockup, asking for his freedom because of the dangers of COVID-19, and his brother, Terry Flannery, is being freed because of the virus. This is the post on Instagram from Curtis 50 Cent Jackson saying Black Mafia boss Southwest T is out. Take your time getting to the bank. No hurry, just have what you owe him by Monday. 50 Cent has been promoting an 8-episode series on the Black Mafia family that he's writing for Starz. It will tell the story of two brothers from Detroit who built a drug empire, then tried to turn it into a legitimate hip-hop business, promoting stars such as Young Jeezy.
And maybe the Flannery brothers who once cast a spell, not just on the streets of a city or a state, but on the whole country, are just making sure we're entertained by the greatest show on earth. As for Meech, he's still using his personality inside prison. His photographs show him with different groups of people, and I know for a fact he's gotten in trouble in many different prisons because he causes kind of a frenzy. He gets put into a leadership position by all the inmates. When you're a celebrity and you have great personality skills, now there's all kind of different rumors about things that go on with Meech in prison. I'm sure you can look some of those up, but I've known for years they've been putting him on diesel therapy. And in the hole, when he was in the Wayne County jail during the trial, the guards were asking him for autographs. And the guard told me that back in the day, because he was my friend, rest in peace. That guard that was my friend ended up having to do some prison time because him and some other guards were assaulting inmates, but that's another story. Now, in the end, about 150 criminal defendants were indicted by the United States and referred to as members or associates of the Black Mafia family, aka BMF, aka blowing money fast.
With 4 new big arrests, Atlanta police believe they have just about shut down the so-called Black Mafia family. And as our Julia Harding reports, these suspects were hiding out in one of the city's most popular areas.
U.S. Marshals say this man, one of Atlanta Police Department's top 10 most wanted and a member of an organized crime family, is now behind bars. U.S. Marshals tell me they arrested 37-year-old Ernest Dennis and 40-year-old Jonathan Manigo here outside a Buckhead hotel. Both men, they say, are members of the so-called Black Mafia family, or BMF.
Anyone tied to BMF typically has an extensive criminal history, so we consider them to be very violent.
Investigators say the organization BMF is heavily involved in drug trafficking and has been in Atlanta at least since 2004. At that time, federal agents seized this limo with secret compartments that had almost $1 million hidden inside. Within the last 2 weeks, U.S. Marshals and Atlanta police have arrested a total of 4 BMF members, including these 2 men, Ricardo Webb and Tovis Raines.
We know that they don't have the level of contacts or the drug contacts or the access to drugs and money and other people the way that they had before. So we're definitely slowly destroying their organization.
An organization that at one time claimed to rule Atlanta. Now agents say that's no longer the case. In Atlanta, Julia Harding, Fox 5 News.
BMF itself as a name didn't coalesce until Meech started pushing Blue and Young Jeezy as rappers, and then Terry, after the fallout, started calling his side 263, which is the alphanumeric code on a telephone pad for BMF. But let's take a look around the country at the United States versus BMF. 6 cities where the feds used the Black Mafia family name in their prosecution of yayo and money laundering conspiracies. Louisville, home of Pink Suit Cuz, better known as Tory Sims, and 4 other guys. Evidence at the trial included intercepted phone conversations of Sims, known as Pink Suit Cuz, ordering cocaine from Terry Flannery. That particular shipment of 10 bricks was seized by the DEA just outside of Detroit. And from July through August of 2004, a wiretap of Tory Sims' telephone by DEA Louisville intercepted thousands of convos between Sims and others arranging for the sale and distro of yams in the Louisville area. Witness testimony during the trial indicated that Sims received and distributed hundreds of bricks of BMF cocaine in the Louisville market. Well-known BMF members turned federal informants Charles Parson and Arnold A.R. Boyd testified against Sims during his 4-day trial. Parsons and Boyd were 2 of Terry's key guys, and they ended up being 2 key informants. Orlando, Florida. 2 BMF convictions down there. The main targets of this were William Doc Marshall, a woman named Doreen Fiddler, Mark Whaley, and another woman. I think Marshall got, his convictions aren't listed. He was, of course, Doc, one of the main informants. Doc supposedly got himself on the police radar by shooting someone who was breaking into his Atlanta condo. And when the police came, he hadn't hid several bricks of cocaine he had in his residence, fraudulently obtained cars. So he was associated with the 404 Motorsports, and so was the guy Mark Whaley out of the Orlando indictment. Whaley leased high-end vehicles to BMF members. Marshall had like a brokerage service. So when the government put Doc Marshall on the stand as a witness, he testified that at that moment in time, he was incarcerated for distributing cocaine and for money laundering. And he claimed to have been the accountant for everybody, but I think the feds fed him some info. So one woman and Mark Whaley got convicted down in Orlando for BMF. So we have 4 people in Louisville, 2 in Orlando. Now here's a picture of Doc Marshall's brother, Kareem Shear, just to give you a feel for the collateral damage. Criminal cases, and especially one this big, has on everybody's family. So when you're making money and you're pulling people in like you're doing them a favor, are you really? This guy, Kareem Sheard, did 3 years in federal prison for being in charge of obtaining, creating false identification, 250 of them for different BMF associates, renting mansions and fake names, providing fake proof of income, and etc. to lease cars. He's out of prison now. He lives in Patterson, New Jersey, in a basement apartment where junkies urinate on the window while he tries to sleep. Who knows where his brother Doc is now? He was putting in witness protection. He's somebody definitely don't want to be showing his face, but he certainly isn't looking out for the younger brother, Kareem Sheard, who he presented as an opportunity, and he had probably a few years of fun, but ruined his life like a lot of other people's. Detroit, the main indictment, October 2005, 30 people. This is the indictment that saw the Flannery brothers themselves get charged and eventually take plea agreements where they subjected themselves to a sentence in the 20 to 30 year range. And of course, they both got the top end of that range in 30 years. BMF associates in Detroit also got hit with money laundering, buying people's winning lottery tickets for cash and then claiming them for themselves, paying taxes on the money. So of course then it would be clean. Then there was a superseding indictment of another 19 people, which brought at that time the total number of people indicted up to 49. So again, a second indictment in Detroit, and this included Jacob the jeweler, 30 pieces of jewelry, 13 homes, 35 vehicles, including limos, BMWs, Range Rovers, Aston Martins, Bentleys, bank accounts, and that's where the money judgment of $270 million was entered, which was some sort of calculation of money made. I really don't know where that number came from. Detroit superseding indictment, you had Jacob the jeweler and these 30 pieces of jewelry. So what's the story with that? Well, that's where Kim Kardashian comes in. Her very first husband, Damon Thomas. Southwest, he got pulled over outside of St. Louis. He had $5 million in jewelry. Jacob the jeweler pled guilty to letting Damon Thomas be the straw man to supposedly, because he had the income to account for it. I don't know what hit songs he made. And he bought Terry $5 million worth of jewelry, put it in his name, but then he gave it all up pretty quickly. I think this is what led Kim Kardashian to divorce Damon Thomas. She had used him up for all she could and moved on. And speaking of St. Louis, that was BMF's first big hub outside of Detroit. 6 months before the Detroit indictment, Duran Gatling of St. Louis was indicted, and he was found in Chamblee, Georgia, hiding behind insulation in the attic of a house where a lot of gambling was going on. And at that moment, well, they went in the house and they were searching, and they had located him. Bop, bop. Shots were fired at the task force. The task force didn't flee, and they ended up getting Mr. Gatling, and they traced the last number in Mr. Gatling's phone to one Jerry Davis. And if you watched my Tremaine Kiki Graham story, Jerry Davis was the leader of the so-called Sin City Mafia, which operated right out across the Georgia-Alabama border in Phoenix City, Alabama. Police allege that Gatling called Jerry Davis to fire the shots at the house. Of course, they were never charged with that, so. Jerry Davis got indicted out of Columbia, South Carolina. So let's go down there where there was another set of people indicted for the BMF case, primarily Tremaine Kiki Graham. Now, the feds attributed this one to blowing money fast as well. It was tied in with 404 Motorsports. I mean, I guess you could call it a BMF case, though they weren't getting what they were getting from Terry and Meech, but I'm sure the BMF name helped the prosecutors secure 36 years in federal prison for Jerry Davis, which is more than Meech and Terry, and a life no parole sentence for Tremaine Kiki Graham. Graham created a delivery system using UPS packages that Jerry Davis used to send thousands of kilos. I think people around Meech in Atlanta used the delivery service as well. Either way, thousands of kilos are sent to South Carolina by Jerry Davis and sold by Graham and others. Several homicides, including that of the girlfriend and one of the workers at 404 Motorsports. 404 Motorsports, like I referenced in the Orlando case, was the luxury car dealer rental business that supplied BMF smugglers with some of their vehicles. These homicides were mentioned as being related to Graham, but he wasn't charged with them. And Graham was the only BMF case affiliate to receive life no parole. He made a deal for 35 years with cooperation, but when they gave him a lie detector on his cooperation, he was lying about his cooperation. He was trying to play games, so he got life no parole. But he did just get resentenced under like the First Step Act or something, but to 32 years, which is 2 years longer than Meech, so he still has 10 more years left. So you start to see how these cities tag together. Remember I said 404 Motorsports tied in with the Orlando indictments. Doc Marshall and Mark Whaley, Tremaine Kiki Graham were partners in 404 Motorsports.
Boy, what that Pittsburgh, what that Summer Hill, I'm talking great at home, pimping what mechanic.
Now, down to Atlanta, 16 people. The place people think of BMF's headquarters, even though Detroit had the most indictments. Atlanta was really party central, the meetup place. They had the last set of major indictments in July of 2007. 2 years after the Flannery brothers were arrested. 16 people, only one of whom went to trial. That was Fleming Daniels. Atlanta is where Blue DaVinci got indicted. And Blue, of course, is the subject of snitching allegations. But I will say that maybe it's him that should be throwing stones at glass houses, or at least throwing stones back, because all of the people that got indicted in that Atlanta indictment 2 years after the Detroit one and after the Louisville and Orlando ones, you know, you would have to imagine that all the people that got indicted before them helped build the cases on them. In drug cases, almost everybody gives some type of info. I'm not saying anyone in particular, because everybody doesn't, but a lot of people do. That's just how it goes. Just because your name ain't on some paperwork don't mean you didn't tell them something. And for all you would-be, I'm the next big Meech, like I said, trust me in these cases. Because remember, I talked to defense attorneys, feds, I know stuff. I mean, I'm not going to mention it, but just a lot of cases. People who have a reputation of never telling, they've given info. They never signed their name, they never got on the stand. But, you know, when you're sitting in a room and you can go home or do way less time just by giving an address or a name, a lot of people do it. Records indicate in Atlanta that a total of 10 people signed cooperation agreements out of the 16. And the one guy who didn't take a plea, who went to trial, was Fleming Daniels from Brooklyn.
Yo, he kept it gangster with us, man. It's the BMF shit for life, man. You know, man, y'all niggas better get with.
Again, Doc Marshall was called to testify against him.
It's a crowd gathering up. And the guy on Wood had been there before me. So he pointed out and told me, you know, that's the dude over there from BMF. And I'm like, man, you know I got out last year. I kind of heard about them guys, but I just didn't believe they was making that much money.
This is 09.
Yeah, this 09.
But you had read the book.
I read the book in 2007. And I just couldn't believe that they you know. So when he brought it up and he said the name, of course these guys originated in Detroit, so I know what he is. So I'm like, and when he said the name, I had to already read the book. So when he said Doc.
So at the beginning, you had the William Marshall nigga told these people that he seen me receive 80 to 100 kilos on at least 6 to 7 occasions. One instance he could remember for certain was 4th of July 2003, where I had a party at my house, a 4th of July party at my house. And after the party, when everybody had left, all the party goers left, a white limo came to my house and I unloaded it, and he helped me unload it with 80 to 100 kilos at my house with just me.
Who is this now?
That's Doc, William Marshall.
Yeah, so just so people know, he's one of the, well, as far as the case, he was very important for the federal government.
No, he is the star witness.
But is he real? Like, did they, because the feds will do this sometimes. They'll have a lot of information and they'll need one guy to run it through, and they'll feed it to him and have him, was he really around like that to know all the information? He seems like kind of a flaky guy.
I was released from prison July of 2008.
For
attempted murder. Okay. I did 15 years for that. Came home out of state prison after reentry, after Ryan Road reentry program. I got let go 2008 July. Immediately got back off into the streets, the money, you know.
You had a wild incident.
Yeah, I really got released from prison. I wrote 3-4 books. So in my mind, I need the money to start a company, and I'm trying to go down that road.
Global Cooling Productions, which you're the head on.
Yep. So, you know, I was on that road. So I ended up getting into an incident that happened in Fort Wayne, Indiana. You know, we'll talk about that later today. But
in a nutshell, what happened?
You know, me and a Mexican friend of mine, we went down to Fort Wayne, Indiana. Some guys allegedly, they wanted like 60 pounds that he had. And they robbed it for it. It was all a setup from the beginning. You know, in hindsight, looking back, you know it was all a setup from the beginning. And so they killed him. I shot 2 of them, and you know, self-defense type of deal. They came up in a little small Daisy room with AKs. So it was like, you know, you got to protect yourself. But anyway, so I ended up shooting 2 of them to get them up off me, but they shot him first and ended up killing him. So anyway, I was on parole at the time. So they violated my parole, gave me 5 extra years. Just
no new charges.
Sure. No new charges. I was gave self-defense in Indiana. And, you know, that was pretty much it. And I don't really know at this point if they apprehended the guys that did it, because I didn't actually know the guys. You know, I went with a friend of mine, you know, but it was like, once they got the shooting, you're not looking at faces. You're trying to protect your life. So that's kind of how that went. But so I don't know the whole outcome of the case at this point. But I know that, you know, that's what led me to the violation. And from that point on with the violation, they sent me to Ryan Road Correctional Facility. And they was using it as...
That's in the city of Detroit.
Yes, that's right on the east side of Detroit. They got Mile Road, and then they got Ryan Road.
These two
prisons like right behind each other.
In the city, like
in Detroit, in the city, in the hood.
And there was an infamous incident at Ryan about 10 years before you were there.
Yes, like, you know, the big escape. You know, it's the second biggest escape in Michigan's history. 10 guys escaped and threw the guys over the fence. Mark McLeod and his friends orchestrated it, and they was able to, they escaped. 10 of them escaped. 3 orchestrated it, but the other 7 guys on the yard at the time just went with them because the gates was open.
So that caused them to change who was at that prison.
Yeah, they, the person, as far as the correctional officers and, just all that type of stuff. So they actually closed the prison down after that big escape, shortly after that, and just made it strictly for parole violations and health purposes for prisoners that had, extended, cancer and that type of deal. So Ryan Road was considered as used for that. Special programming, parole violators, and health. So once I got there, that's the first place you go before you're found guilty on your actual violation.
So you go straight,
whatever that is.
You don't even go to the county. You kind of go from the precinct to there.
Wherever you was caught at, you go straight to there.
Oh, you don't even go to the county.
As soon as they find you out, you on parole, you going there. Sometimes you might stop through the county first, but for the most part, a lot of people, once they find out you're on parole anyway. So, after I got there, I noticed the yards is different for regular prisons because, you can't.
Because there's people that might be only in there for a week or 2 or a month.
Yes. You might go in there and they see a parole violation ain't that serious and they overcrowd, they kick you out the next day. Or you got a serious parole violation, you got to go to Jackson after that, which was me.
So the environment, even though it's prison guys and some are doing life, it's not. The atmosphere is kind of different.
Yeah, because of the guys that they, when they closed the prison, they left a few guys there. So, from the actual prison. And the guys that they left there were guys they considered as good inmates. They didn't want no rah-rah. And they, and a lot of guys that's doing life in prison don't want no trouble. So they will leave you in situations, even if you got life, they'll leave you in those situations where it's more comfortable and they know you got life. You ain't trying to cause no trouble. You trying to stay in the best living conditions that you in. So that was kind of the vibe around Ryan at the time. Like the guys that was there that did have life, they was there to get paid to take care of the health concerns.
Oh, so there were dying inmates being sent there for hospice and for serious medical.
Yes.
So the lifers were there as orderlies and.
Yeah, the lifers were there to work in the kitchen because they had to eat a certain type of food. So, they kept some lifers back that knew how to cook this certain type of food and knew how to work in the kitchen. So they got them lifers. Then they got the lifers that's tutors. They kept them there too for the guys.
So it's good inmates and it's people just passing through. There's no real structure.
Not at all. You know what I'm saying? So I'm there for the parole violation. So even if you're guilty, you got to go through steps. So it might have took a couple weeks to go through the process to get you to Jackson quarantine. So during that process, you go to the yard, you still get your recreational time. You get your couple hours a day in the morning and at night. So, at one point, me and a friend of mine, we were walking. I was smoking weed at the time. So I'm like, where's the weed? Who got some weed? He like, this is not like a regular place. They don't have weed around here because everybody's going and coming.
When before you got out of prison, before that when you were in Macomb, you said you could just buy weed from the guards?
Yeah, weed was accessible. It was nothing. Nobody looked at it as wrong.
So you could just be like, hey, let's get some weed today, you're in the street. Let's go buy some weed?
Yeah. For the most part. Sometimes it would be, dang, man, they ain't come in yet, or
what?
We gotta wait till tomorrow. But usually it's there. Yeah, it's readily available. So, the way they run it, Ryan Road is not readily available because you got guys leaving and coming, all the time. So, but anyway, in the midst of that, the conversation with smoking, it's a crowd gathering up, and the guy on Wood had been there before me. So he pointed out and told me, that's the dude over there from BMF. And I'm like, man, you know I got out last year. I kind of heard about them guys, but I just didn't believe they was making that much money.
This is 09.
Yeah, this 09.
But you had read the book.
I read the book in 2007. And I just couldn't believe that so when he brought it up and he said the name, of course these guys originated in Detroit, so I know what it is. So I'm like, and when he said the name, I had to already read the book. So when he said Doc Williams Marshall, I know when he said the name at the time, I said, damn, I remember from reading the book. And the book was sort of like a documentary, so you feel like a lot of it is real. So I'm like, whoa, he told on both of them. He told on Terry and Meech. I'm like, wow. So as we walking and turning the corner, you can see you got different names of Muslims that's in prison. But at this particular time, it was Moors Americans, short for Moabites. They were, it was a bunch of them over there talking to them. Just a bunch of guys. It was like he was a semi-celebrity, like literally, like. And so we kept walking, but we was talking about, a friend of mine told me that, yeah, they got him here. I don't know exactly what for, but I'm assuming.
To testify.
Yeah, some type of coming back to testify on somebody,
Or they could have just been hiding them, or, because it was a safe. It
was safe. And like I said, the people that was there that actually knew, they was treating him like celebrities. So obviously they knew it wasn't going to be a problem.
So that's pretty interesting. Now, let me ask you this. Okay, lots of people, I did jail time, been in and out, but I didn't do any prison. But when you're really in the prison yard system, as we know, a lot of people, in a lot of cases, a lot of people do some type of state's evidence informing. When you were in Michigan State prison, was it really that thing of like, oh, who told, let's stab them, or not?
Nah, see, state and federal is definitely different.
And each state might be different.
Yeah, and each state.
How was it where you were at with people that were people trying to figure out, did someone tell, or if it wasn't your case, no one cared?
Well, literally, it got to the point, back when I first went to prison in 1993, it was a process of changing that you seen. But back then in 93, I say all the way up into the 2000s maybe, yeah, you had guys that would, if you would come through prison with a bold case and they knew you had a bold case, oh, you getting stabbed.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, you getting off the yard.
Now, what's a bold case? You mean?
Like if you don't rape a family member or this guy, and this guy might be scared to do it, or is somebody else gonna do it? They might not even know him.
Oh, okay.
But
would they check? Would it have to be in the paper?
Yeah, it would be a process because trust me, it's unbelievable. But us that was in prison, it's like we knew everything that was going on out in the free world without some of the people even in the free world knowing. It's just unbelievable.
I ain't got nothing else to do.
Yeah, it's like we knew. So when a guy was coming to prison, you knew what he was coming to prison for, especially if it was a big case or.
Okay, but what about just say it's some murders never run in a mill, but something that wasn't in the paper, but just a guy 2 cells down from you. Are you, maybe not you, but are people trying to figure out, did he tell on his?
Well,
no one care if it wasn't involving you?
No, people care. See, this is the thing. You might not have your neighbor trying to figure it out, but trust me, if you in there for something bold, people in prison, we ain't got nothing else to do. Like we searching out, who is you? What's your name? What you? And eventually somebody gonna find out what's going on with you, and you got guys up in there once they find out, you go.
If you told, even if it got nothing to do with that.
If you raped a little kid.
No, I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about telling specifically.
Oh yeah, you told on somebody for sure.
Oh, okay.
Back then, at that particular time, but you started to see a change.
Which was what?
Like you would see, like you might be on the yard, and the officer and guys on the court might get to fighting or whatever. At that particular time, back in the early night, you guys would be like, man, go on, police. They're shooting the police off. Like, get out of our business. We good over here. Like that, yes, it was like that. But these days, as I get older and I'm finna go home now, police come over there. What y'all doing? officer, it's okay. It's okay. Or he over there on that garbage. He over there starting trouble. You like, wow, this have changed.
What do you think caused that? I don't hard to say.
I mean, I think it's just generational change. Like music change, everything changes, and I just think, as parents change, the way the kids grow up change. So.
So tell us more about. Did you see that?
So, yeah, of course. Yep. So, and I paid attention after that too.
Because just to reiterate, in that brief time you were out, you had because you met me right after that.
Yeah.
Okay, but you put your books out, and everyone has a book, but you actually put them out and made money because Dion has paid me to write scripts and do stuff for him. So Dion definitely I've been to his events. He was making legal money, and then of course for that brief period of time you made the mistake of getting yourself back involved in criminal activity, which resulted in the unfortunate incident, RIP Lupe in Indiana. So you're on money, like you're not just because you went to prison for trying to carjack someone, they shot you, like it was pretty crazy, but you were 18. This time when you're back on a parole violation, not only are you a seasoned prison street guy, whatever you want to call it, you've made entertainment money right here in Detroit.
Right.
Significant.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, I feel like it was just.
You had made something.
Yeah, definitely.
So you knew you had a different, probably, vision on life and just money. So you were interested in him, just probably not that you wanted to meet him, but just it was interesting to see a character from a book you read 3 times live in the flesh.
Definitely, it definitely was that. Yeah. And like I said, I'm like, I didn't believe that these guys put this crew together that was making this much money.
But you said in that brief period with you just doing whatever it is you were doing for that brief time just in Detroit and the amount of money y'all tell us about this.
Yep. So it was like when I didn't believe it. I'm like, these guys BMF.
Because when you was in prison, it was for some robbery. You sold some drugs, but you never.
Yeah, you ain't really go. I ain't go full fledged and really seen the money. But when I come home and I got to dealing with my Mexican friend Lupe, I seen it like, wow, you like this is, especially if you talking about some years, 5, 6 years, 3, 4 years.
Run, yeah.
Straight, like, yeah, you know the right people. So yeah, he was definitely interesting to be able to see him in the flesh and whoever that was dealing with that type of engine in the flesh, so.
William Marshall, bro, had at that point in time, Doc Marshall was responsible for Southwest T and his crews, cars, places they lived, the houses, and all of that. He was the house and car guy.
Charge of all that.
Yeah, he was the guy you go to get your houses and cars. So now what? Like right now.
Say, so he's a fraudster, though. He was a fraudster.
I don't know about that. Just hold on. Watch this. If I wanted a car and I needed a crib in Atlanta, then I could go to Doc and he could get me the shit and I give him the bread. But when I give him the bread and he get me the shit, he write my name down in his little ledger, say, Blue, got this house at this address, and it's $3,200 a month, and it's due on this date in his ledger. And he say, Blue has this car, and the payment is due on this date. So that's how he keeps track. They got the ledger, and that's how BMF got exposed. So what they did, once they got the ledger, they got all the T's Southwest, because we wasn't fucking with T&M at this time. So we didn't have shit from my understanding. We probably did still have a couple spots with BI. The ones that got raided probably came from BI because he told, so that's why they got raided. But I wasn't fucking with that nigga like that. Like, my shit didn't come from Cuz. Like, so none of my cars and shit, none of my shit came through him. I ain't like that nigga anyway. I told Meech from the beginning.
What was he like? He seems kind of...
We still had the White House and that nigga BI was trying to get too close to the other side and not do cars. I had said to Meech before, and he know this. He gonna hear this and see this one day. He gonna know I said this to him. And I'm gonna give him his response. He'll probably laugh at this. I said, damn, bro, why we just don't let the car man do cars and shit? Why? Because the car man know all the street niggas. So the street niggas know he fucking with BMF. He fucking with Meech. So the street nigga that's a regular nigga that's coming to drop him a bag for a car, like, nigga, here go 200,000, nigga, get me some shit from Meech, bro. You fuck with the nigga. So now he's coming bringing money to Meech. Like, nigga, and me at first, niggas was like, man, nigga ain't fuck with that nigga, man, like that, man, do the car. And then, I don't know, somehow nigga got in on the other side and nigga was fucking with some dope, so niggas, he was soft. So niggas tried to rob him. So when they come in the house, do the home invasion, his man was with him, killed one of the niggas, or he killed one of the niggas, one of them, I don't know how that went, and they ran about the house. When they ran about the house, the police came up in there and found the floor safe. Pulled up the floor safe, had like 3 bricks in it, then it had the ledger with all T&M houses and shit in it. So they went on to St. Louis, Detroit, all these places kicking in, they processing houses and all that shit. And
So the
picked all them
case
niggas
really
up.
did start
With them niggas, bro. They picked all them niggas up, then they came, they told on us, and they came and picked us up, bro. That's how the shit went, flat out. Fuck what a nigga talking about. If you got the paperwork, you know.
And so when you say people treat him like a celebrity, what does that mean? Like, he seemed very relaxed?
Oh yeah, he was. Yeah. Bald head, clean bald head, jogging suit on. And imagine in prison.
Wasn't no PC, he walking around.
No, he walking around. But like, man, the whole setup of this prison, he is like PC.
Well, or just it's special.
Yeah, special. Cause I'm a parole violator.
So you ain't trying. You might go home tomorrow. You definitely ain't trying to do nothing. Yeah.
So it was like that type of environment. But at the end of the day,
did anybody have any chit chat, or it was so much turnover?
Yeah, but the thing is, I did hear, because I started paying attention that he was here now. So I know a couple other guys that don't like him, that was there. But they were parole violators. They finna go home. They ain't trying to.
But they
were letting people know out there that he's here.
Oh,
I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
You know, so
what sort of problem could that have caused? Or just
in that particular place?
None.
I don't know. I don't think nothing. But you would know where he's at, and you would know probably where it's going after that. If anything, if somebody was really, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, you know, I don't know if he killed nobody. I don't know.
No, he did.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know how bad people.
He got 11 years there. He told on some other people, but a lot of people was connected to BMF.
Yeah.
But he ain't the only one who told in the BMF case.
Right. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So,
and those drug conspiracy cases, you know, I ain't gonna say everybody them, but a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. So when they came to him, I didn't know how much they was trying to get at him, because it looked like to me, like I said, I heard people that did want to do something to him, or they didn't like him because of what he did. And of course, I don't even know him, but I mean, I don't condone you ratting on somebody else when you was involved in it and you participated. Go do what you got to do. I mean, that's how I feel. But at the end of the day, you know, it happens, and you know, I don't think people was looking at him as, okay, he killed my people, or he did this, or he did.
He was just a guy from a book.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. You know,
it's just so boring in there.
Oh, it's boring as hell in there, because you know they ain't a regular prison, so ain't a lot to do. You know what I'm saying?
It's even more boring than normal.
Yes.
Fleming Daniels was not on any wiretaps. Nothing really tying him to the cocaine business. It was Doc Marshall said he saw Phil Daniels receiving loads of cocaine while he himself was picking up cocaine. And just based pretty much on that, probably in money he couldn't account for, he was found guilty on one charge and sentenced to 20 years federal prison time. And then he got hit with another 20 years for one of those nightclub murders that went on in Buckhead, associated with BMF, but that was to run concurrent. So he went in 08-09. Fleming Daniels probably has a few years left. He should be out soon himself. So that's the bulk of the indictments.
The U.S. Attorney's Office, 34 suspects were indicted by grand juries, more than 24 arrested. In court, prosecutors said those arrested were either members of or connected to an organization called the Black Mafia Family. The criminal organization was involved in distributing fentanyl, heroin, methamphetamine, and cocaine. During a 3-month period in 2021, the criminal enterprise laundered nearly $1 million. Now, the special agent in charge of the St. Louis FBI office Jay Greenberg said, quote, "This week's takedown demolished multiple drug trafficking organizations, which were the main suppliers of methamphetamine, fentanyl, and cocaine into the St. Louis region." The feds say this was a long 4-year investigation. Multiple agencies involved, including the FBI, the DEA, U.S. Postal Inspection Service, St. Louis County Police, and an organization called the St. Louis Gateway Strike Force. Live in the newsroom, Russell Kinsall, First Alert 4.
Take a look at
Right there, you're up, 70, 80 people, and then there was a bunch of cases scattered around the country. You'd have 1 or 2 people who are said to be connected to BMF. Were they not? Kind of arbitrary.
5, a major roundup of drug mafia suspects by the U.S. Attorney's Office. Tonight, more than 24 of the Metro's biggest suppliers are off the streets. First Alert 4's Russell Kinsall is following this story tonight.
Yeah, Corey, according to federal prosecutors, this was a drug distribution and money laundering operation. One suspect even charged with fraudulently getting a PPP loan during the pandemic. Now, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office, 34 suspects were indicted by grand juries, more than 24 arrested. In court, prosecutors said those arrested were either members of or connected to an organization called the Black Mafia Family. The criminal organization was involved in distributing fentanyl, heroin, methamphetamine, and cocaine. During a 3-month period in 2021, the criminal enterprise laundered nearly $1 million. Now, the special agent in charge of the St. Louis FBI office said, Jay Greenberg said, quote, "This week's takedown demolished multiple drug trafficking organizations, which were the main suppliers of methamphetamine, fentanyl, and cocaine into the St. Louis region." The feds say this was a long 4-year investigation. Multiple agencies involved, including the FBI, the DEA, U.S. Postal Inspection Service, St. Louis County Police, and an organization called the St. Louis Gateway Strike Force. Live in the newsroom, Russell Kinsall, First Alert 4.
take a look at